Chosen one. Before anything else, slow your breath and feel this moment settle into your spirit. This is not random. This message did not find you by accident. Heaven has cleared the way, and God says you are no longer blocked, delayed, or restricted from receiving what has been waiting for you. Something has shifted in the unseen, and what once felt capped, limited, or just out of reach is now being opened with divine authority. Anointed one, you have been faithful through confusion, disciplined through lack, and obedient, even when the flow felt inconsistent. But hear this clearly, the issue was never your worth, your effort, or your calling. The issue was capacity. And today God says that capacity is being expanded. You are being cleared to receive more peace, more provision, more ideas, more favor, and more supernatural supply than before. Chosen one, money, resources, and opportunities do not come from people, systems, or titles. They flow from an unlimited source, and that source has just authorized an increase over your life. What once came in drops is about to come in streams. What once required strain will now come with alignment. If your spirit recognizes this moment, stay with me. Let this word recalibrate you. And as you listen quietly, subscribe to what heaven is doing here and type 777 in the comments as your agreement. Chosen one. There are moments in life when heaven does not whisper but intervenes. This is one of those moments. What you are sensing right now is not imagination, emotion, or coincidence. It is alignment. Something has shifted above you, around you, and within you, and the pressure you have felt for so long was not meant to crush you. It was meant to clear you. You have been standing at a spiritual checkpoint, and the word released over you now is simple but weighty. You are cleared to receive more. Not later. Not after you prove something. Not after you suffer a little longer. Cleared, authorized, approved. There was a season where you did everything right and still felt restrained. You prayed, worked, showed up, stayed disciplined, and yet the flow felt inconsistent. Money came, but it didn't stay. Opportunities appeared, but they stalled. Peace visited, but it didn't settle. That was not punishment, and it was not a lack of favor. It was containment. Heaven was not withholding because you were unworthy. Heaven was protecting because your capacity was still being shaped. I know this because I have lived this pattern myself. I remember seasons where I was doing all the right things and still watching doors open halfway and then close again. It was confusing, humbling, even discouraging. But later I realized God was not testing my effort. He was enlarging my ability to hold what was coming without leaking it away. Anointed one, there is a difference between receiving and sustaining. Many people can receive a breakthrough. Few are trained to carry it. And that is why God sometimes slows the release even when the blessing is ready. You were not being delayed. You were being fortified. Your discernment was sharpened. Your dependence on people was broken. Your appetite for shallow validation was burned away. You were quietly learning where your supply truly comes from, and more importantly, where it does not come from. What you thought was stagnation was actually separation from false sources. You see, most people unknowingly cap their own lives by tying provision to one channel: a job, a person, a system, a title. And when that channel tightens, fear enters. But heaven never intended you to live dependent on one stream. The source over your life has always been unlimited. The only thing that needed to expand was your awareness and your internal structure. That expansion has been happening in you through pressure, through waiting, through moments where you had to choose trust over panic. And now, because you no longer worship the channel, you are being reconnected to the source. This is where the clearance comes in. There is a spiritual difference between wanting more and being trusted with more. Wanting comes from need. Being trusted comes from alignment. God does not release increase just because you desire it. He releases it when your inner posture can handle it without distortion. And something in you has changed. You are not as reactive as you used to be. You do not chase approval the same way. You have learned how to sit in silence without collapsing. You have learned how to wait without self-betrayal. That maturity is what triggered this clearance. I want to speak to this personally for a moment. There was a time in my life when I thought my struggle was financial, but it was actually internal. The money I wanted would have amplified anxiety, not peace. The opportunities I prayed for would have exposed insecurity, not purpose. God waited until my desire shifted from prove to serve, from escape to build. And when that shift happened, the flow changed. Not because I worked harder, but because I stopped resisting the preparation. That same shift has happened in you, even if you don't fully see it yet. Chosen one. Heaven does not clear people randomly. Clearance follows inspection, and you passed inspection quietly, when no one was clapping, when no one was watching, when it would have been easier to quit or compromise. Your obedience in hidden places has spoken louder than your prayers, and now what once required strain is about to move with ease. What once took effort is about to come through alignment. This does not mean everything will be instant, but it does mean everything will be supported. You are moving from survival energy into stewardship energy. From scrambling into receiving, from forcing into flowing. There is also a healing happening in how you relate to abundance. You are learning that money is not your identity and lack is not your teacher. Money is a tool. Peace is the sign. When peace arrives, supply follows. And right now there is a calm forming beneath the surface of your life. A groundedness, a quiet confidence that says, I don't know how yet, but I know who. That posture is magnetic to heaven. That posture is what removes limitation. Let me say this clearly because your spirit needs to hear it without distortion. You are not behind. You are not late. You are not disqualified. You are not catching up. You are arriving. And the reason it feels sudden is because preparation happens underground. Roots grow in silence. Structure forms in darkness. Then one day growth becomes visible and everyone calls it overnight. But you know the truth. You lived the nights. You carried the questions. You endured the internal wars, and heaven has accounted for every one of them. Anointed one being cleared to receive more does not mean you will strive more. It means you will surrender deeper. It means you will stop clenching your fists and open your hands, not in desperation, but in trust. When your hands open, your capacity expands. And when your capacity expands, heaven fills it. This is not about chasing wealth. This is about allowing what is already assigned to finally land. I want you to sit with this moment. Do not rush past it. Let the words settle. Let it recalibrate you. Let it loosen the old fears that told you this is as good as it gets. That lie has expired. You are cleared. And what comes next will not feel chaotic. It will feel aligned. It will feel supported. It will feel strangely calm for something so significant. Stay here. Breathe. Receive this quietly. The shift has already begun. Chosen one. One of the hardest truths to accept is that heaven often clears you long before circumstances confirm it. That is why this season feels unfamiliar. You are learning to live from authorization instead of evidence. In the past, you waited for things to look safe before you moved, waited for numbers to line up, waited for people to agree, waited for confirmation in the natural. But now, God is shifting you into a higher order of trust, where movement happens because heaven has spoken, not because the environment feels comfortable. There is a reason your old coping strategies stopped working. The overthinking, the constant planning, the emotional insurance policies you use to protect yourself from disappointment. Those tools served you in survival, but they cannot function in expansion. Survival requires control, expansion requires surrender, and surrender does not mean passivity, it means alignment. It means choosing to rest your weight on God instead of leaning on familiar systems that once kept you afloat but can no longer carry what you are becoming. Anointed One, I want to be honest with you in a way that is rarely said out loud. Sometimes God blocks the flow, not because the blessing is dangerous, but because your attachment to the blessing is. There was a time when you needed the outcome too much. Needed the money to prove something, needed the breakthrough to silence people, needed the validation to heal wounds that only truth could heal. Heaven loves you too much to feed insecurity, so instead it starved it, slowly, patiently, until you learned how to stand without applause and breathe without reassurance. I know how uncomfortable that process is. There were moments in my own life when the silence felt personal, like God had stepped back on purpose. I questioned myself. I replayed decisions. I wondered if I had missed something or failed some invisible test. But over time, clarity came. I realized God was not absent. He was present in a different way. He was teaching me how to hear him without noise, how to trust him without proof, how to stay obedient without emotional payoff. And when that lesson settled, the atmosphere shifted. Chosen One. That same internal shift has occurred in you. You may not be able to name it, but you can feel it. You respond differently now. Things that once triggered panic now trigger prayer. Situations that once made you reactive now make you reflective. You are no longer desperate to be seen, and that is exactly why heaven is preparing to reveal you. Desperation distorts discernment. Clarity attracts alignment. There is also a release happening in how you view effort. You were trained to believe that more comes from pushing harder, sacrificing more, exhausting yourself further. But heaven does not reward burnout. Heaven responds to obedience. There is a difference between diligence and striving. Diligence flows from purpose. Striving flows from fear. And fear-based effort always leaks. It creates short-term gain and long-term exhaustion. God waited until you could work without worshipping the work. That is when clearance happens. You are also being healed from the false belief that struggle equals righteousness. Somewhere along the way, you learned to associate hardship with holiness. You learned to feel guilty when things came easily. You learned to distrust ease as if blessing must always come with pain to be valid. But that is not the voice of God. That is the residue of survival, and God is removing it now. He is teaching you that provision can be peaceful, that increase can be quiet, that expansion does not have to feel like war. Let me ground this for a moment with something practical. Think about the last few months of your life. Notice how certain desires have softened, how you no longer crave things just to impress or escape, how your prayers have become simpler, more honest, less performative. That is not coincidence. That is refinement. Heaven listens closely to refined prayers because they come from truth, not urgency. And prayers rooted in truth create space for real answers. Chosen One being cleared to receive more also means you are being entrusted with greater influence, whether you recognize it yet or not. Influence does not always look like a platform. Sometimes it looks like peace in chaos. Sometimes it looks like wisdom in conversation. Sometimes it looks like the ability to move resources, ideas, or people into the right place at the right time. God does not give increase without assignment. and the assignment attached to your increase is bigger than comfort. It is about stewardship. That is why your heart has been trained before your hands were filled. That is why your inner world was addressed before your outer world shifted. You are being shaped into someone who can hold more without hoarding, who can receive without clenching, who can give without losing themselves. This is not accidental. This is deliberate. Heaven is intentional with vessels it plans to use. I want to speak directly to the part of you that still hesitates, the part that wonders, what if this doesn't work? What if I get my hopes up again? That voice is understandable, but it no longer has authority. That voice was formed in a season where disappointment was frequent and reassurance was rare. But you are not standing in that season anymore. The ground has changed beneath your feet. The permission has been granted. The clearance has been issued. And faith now requires you to move differently than fear taught you. This is where many people miss their moment. They hear the word, feel the stirring, but stay frozen because movement feels risky. But obedience has always felt risky to the mind. Noah looked foolish building an ark without rain. Abraham looked reckless leaving without a map. Yet provision followed movement, not hesitation. And in your case, movement does not mean quitting everything or making dramatic announcements. It means adjusting your posture. It means making decisions from trust instead of scarcity. It means allowing yourself to expect good without immediately bracing for loss. Anointed One expectation is not entitlement. It is alignment. When your expectation matches heaven's intention, resistance dissolves. And right now, heaven's intention is increase with peace, expansion with stability, growth without erosion. You are stepping into a flow that does not drain you, a rhythm that supports you, a pace that preserves you. That is how you know this shift is real. I want you to release the old narrative that said you must always struggle to be worthy. That story no longer fits who you are becoming. You have already paid the price of preparation. You have already walked the miles of discipline. You have already proven your faithfulness in small, unseen ways. Now comes the season of response, not because you demanded it, but because you are ready for it. Stay present with this word. Let it settle deeper than emotion. Let it reach your decisions, your expectations, your self-talk. You are not waiting anymore. You are receiving. And the way you receive now will determine how much you can hold tomorrow. Chosen one. There is a moment in every divine transition where God asks you to release what once felt responsible, logical, and safe. Not because it was wrong, but because it has fulfilled its assignment. Many people miss their increase because they cling to old frameworks that cannot support new weight. And right now, heaven is gently but firmly inviting you to loosen your grip on what no longer matches the level you are being cleared to receive. You may notice that certain routines feel heavy now. Certain conversations drain you. Certain obligations that once felt necessary now feel restrictive. That is not laziness. That is discernment activating. When God expands you internally, anything misaligned begins to feel uncomfortable. This is not punishment. This is calibration. Your spirit is learning to recognize what belongs in this next season and what must be left behind, even if it once served you well. Anointed One, understand this clearly. Not everything you are releasing is bad. Some of it is simply too small. God often removes good things to make room for God things, and that is why this season feels bittersweet. You are not just losing, you are graduating. You are not being stripped, you are being promoted, and promotions always require adjustments that the previous level never demanded. There is also a shift happening in how you relate to control. Control once kept you safe. Control helped you survive unpredictable seasons. Control gave you a sense of stability when nothing else did. But control cannot coexist with trust at this level. The more God increases your influence, the more He asks you to rely on Him instead of your own calculations. This is not because your wisdom is lacking, but because your wisdom must now flow from alignment, not anxiety. I want to share something personal here because this is where many prophetic messages lose authenticity. There was a point in my own journey where God asked me to stop micromanaging outcomes. I was still praying, still working, still believing, but I was also silently trying to guarantee results. And that tension exhausted me. It wasn't until I released the need to predict every outcome that things began to move with less resistance. Not because I stopped caring, but because I started trusting more deeply. Chosen one. The reason God is clearing you to receive more now is because you are finally willing to let Him be God in areas where you used to be hyper-vigilant. You no longer need to know every detail to move forward. You no longer need certainty to obey. That maturity has shifted how heaven responds to you. When God sees that you trust His character more than your calculations, He releases what calculations could never produce. There is also a healing happening in how you view timing. You used to feel behind. You compared your path to others and wondered why things seemed easier for them. But now comparison has lost its grip. You are learning that timing is not about speed, it is about sequence. God never rushes sequence. And now that your sequence has aligned, acceleration can happen without damage. You are stepping into a season where things begin to connect without force. Conversations lead to opportunities. Ideas lead to provision. Rest leads to clarity. This is not luck. This is flow. Flow happens when resistance is removed. And resistance is often internal before it is external. Heaven has been working on your inner resistance quietly, patiently, until the system could finally open without breaking. Anointed One, let me speak directly to your finances for a moment, because this is where fear often hides. Money is not just currency, it is energy, responsibility, and movement. God does not release more money to fix insecurity. He releases it to fund assignment. And your assignment has been maturing. Your values have been clarified. Your motives have been purified. You no longer see money as identity escape or proof. You see it as a tool, and tools belong in the hands of those who know how to use them without being consumed by them. That is why the anxiety around money has been losing its grip on you. You still care, you are still responsible, but you are no longer frantic. That emotional shift is not small, it is a signal. Heaven responds to emotional readiness faster than intellectual readiness. And emotionally, you are steadier now. You are not as easily shaken by fluctuations. That stability makes you trustworthy. Chosen one, there is also an invitation in this season to redefine success. Success is no longer about accumulation alone. It is about sustainability. It is about impact that does not cost you your peace. It is about growth that does not erode your relationships or your health. God is not interested in blessing you at the expense of your soul. He is interested in blessing you in a way that reflects His nature, and His nature is abundance with order. This is why your spirit has been craving simplicity even as increase approaches. You are learning to value clarity over chaos, depth over noise, quality over quantity. That internal simplification is what allows external expansion to remain clean. When your life is uncluttered internally, abundance has space to settle instead of scatter. I want you to pay attention to the small confirmations happening around you, the subtle shifts, the moments where things resolve more quickly than expected, the times where you feel supported instead of strained. These are not coincidences. They are early signs of clearance in action. Heaven often shows you proof in whispers before it shows you proof in headlines. Anointed One, do not rush this season. Expansion does not require urgency. Urgency belongs to fear. Alignment belongs to peace. Let peace be your confirmation. If something feels forced, pause. If something feels aligned, move. You are being trained to let peace guide your decisions instead of pressure. That discernment will protect you as increase arrives. There is also a deeper layer to this clearance that must be acknowledged. You are being cleared not just to receive more externally, but to hold more internally. More responsibility, more vision, more authority. Authority without humility destroys. Authority with humility transforms. And humility has been cultivated in you through seasons where you had to listen, learn, and wait. That humility is not weakness. It is strength under control. Chosen One. I need you to hear this gently but clearly. You do not need to prove yourself in this next season. The need to prove comes from insecurity. You have nothing left to prove. Your life has already testified to your faithfulness. Now you are being invited to rest in that truth and allow God to do what only He can do. As you move forward, expect alignment, not chaos. Expect provision, not panic. Expect clarity, not confusion. This does not mean challenges will disappear, but it does mean challenges will no longer destabilize you. You are becoming unshakable, not because life is perfect, but because your foundation is secure. Let this word continue to settle. Let it reshape how you see yourself, how you plan, how you wait, how you receive. You are not stepping into something fragile. You are stepping into something supported, and heaven does not revoke what it has already cleared. Chosen One, as this clearance continues to unfold, there is a deeper invitation being extended to you, one that goes beyond receiving resources and reaches into receiving responsibility. Heaven does not release more into a life that resists responsibility, and responsibility in the kingdom sense is not pressure, it is stewardship with peace. You are being trusted with more because you have learned how to carry weight without letting it distort your spirit. There was a time when responsibility felt heavy to you. It felt like burden, like obligation, like something that demanded more than it gave. That is because responsibility without alignment feels like punishment, but responsibility with alignment feels like purpose. And something has shifted in you where purpose has become clearer than pressure. You are no longer driven by fear of loss. You are guided by clarity of calling. That shift is rare, and heaven notices it. Anointed One, I want to address something that often goes unspoken in prophetic moments like this. Fear does not always leave loudly. Sometimes it leaves quietly, replaced by discernment. You may still feel cautious at times, but caution is not fear. Caution listens. Fear panics. And the fact that you can pause, reflect, and choose instead of react tells me your nervous system has been healed enough to hold increase without collapsing. That healing matters. God does not pour new wine into vessels that are still cracking under old stress. There is also a recalibration happening in how you interpret challenges. Challenges no longer feel like signs that something is wrong. They feel like indicators that something matters. When you are cleared to receive more, resistance does not disappear, it changes form. It becomes less about survival and more about refinement. And refinement does not threaten your identity, it strengthens it. You are not fighting to stay afloat anymore. You are learning how to navigate deeper waters with steadiness. Let me ground this again in lived experience. There was a season when every obstacle made me question whether I had misheard God. I would interpret difficulty as disqualification. But as my capacity grew, my interpretation changed. Difficulty became information, not condemnation. It told me where to adjust, not where to retreat. And that shift saved me from abandoning assignments that were simply asking me to mature into them. You are standing in that same interpretive shift now. Chosen one. This is why your prayer life feels different. You are not begging, you are aligning. You are not pleading for God to notice you. You are listening for instruction. That posture changes everything. When prayer becomes conversation instead of desperation, heaven responds with clarity instead of delay. And clarity is more valuable than speed because clarity prevents waste. There is also a purification happening in your motives. You are beginning to want less noise and more impact, less visibility and more effectiveness, less applause and more fruit. That desire is not small, it is sacred. God entrusts influence to those who do not need it to feel whole, and you have done the work of becoming whole without it. That wholeness is what qualifies you now, anointed one. You may notice that certain doors are opening quietly, no announcement, no spectacle, just access. That is intentional. Loud doors often come with loud expectations. Quiet doors often come with lasting authority. God is not interested in impressing people through you. He is interested in transforming systems through you. And systems change requires consistency, not hype. I want to speak directly to the way you handle success, because that matters in this season. You are learning not to rush to celebrate prematurely. Not because you are pessimistic, but because you are grounded. You understand that success is not a moment, it is a pattern. And patterns are built slowly, deliberately, faithfully. That understanding protects you from the emotional whiplash that ruins many people when things accelerate. Chosen one, there is also a deepening happening in your integrity. You care more about alignment than appearance. You would rather be accurate than admired. That choice will serve you well as influence grows. Integrity attracts trust. Trust attracts opportunity. Opportunity attracts provision. And provision, when stewarded with integrity, multiplies instead of evaporates. Let me say this clearly because it needs to be said. Not everyone around you will understand this version of you. Some people were comfortable with you when you were striving, proving, or uncertain. Your peace may unsettle them. Your clarity may threaten their narratives. This does not mean you have changed for the worse. It means you have changed for the true, and truth often disrupts comfort before it establishes order. Anointed one, do not shrink to maintain familiarity. Familiarity is not the same as loyalty. Loyalty to God sometimes requires distance from environments that feed old versions of you. That distance is not rejection, it is protection. God is guarding the vessel because the contents are increasing. There is also an invitation here to trust your own discernment again. You spent seasons doubting your intuition because fear was loud and clarity felt distant. But clarity has returned, quietly, steadily. You know when something is aligned now. You feel it in your body, not just your thoughts. That embodied discernment is a gift. Honor it. It will keep you from overcommitting and under-receiving. Chosen one, being cleared to receive more, also means being cleared to say no without guilt. No to distractions. No to misaligned opportunities. No to relationships that drain instead of build. Every no creates space for a more accurate yes, and accuracy matters more than availability at this level. I want you to notice how your definition of enough has shifted. You are no longer chasing excess to fill emptiness. You are building overflow from fullness. That is a healthy order. Overflow from emptiness becomes greed. Overflow from fullness becomes generosity. And generosity is a sign of internal abundance long before external abundance shows up. Anointed One, let peace continue to be your guide, not excitement, not urgency. Peace. Peace does not mean lack of movement. It means movement without friction. It means decisions that do not require you to betray yourself. It means progress that does not cost you your sleep. You are being taught how to receive without anxiety, how to hold without gripping, how to build without burning out. These lessons are not delays, they are accelerators. They prevent collapse when things grow quickly, and things will grow. Stay attentive. Stay grounded. Stay surrendered. Heaven is not rushing you, but it is moving with you. And every step you take in alignment now is being supported by more than you can see. Chosen One, as this journey reaches its fullness, there is one final alignment that must settle into your spirit, not as information, but as truth you live from. Receiving more is not about becoming larger in the eyes of the world. It is about becoming lighter in your own soul. The heaviest burden you have carried was never lack. It was responsibility without rest, vision without permission, and faith without assurance. God has been lifting that weight quietly, layer by layer, until you could stand upright again without bracing for collapse. Anointed One, there is a deep peace being anchored in you now, and this peace is not circumstantial, it is covenantal. It does not depend on numbers, timelines, or outcomes. It rests on trust, and trust is the soil where sustainable abundance grows. This is why your reactions have slowed, your discernment has sharpened, and your spirit no longer feels scattered. You are no longer trying to outrun uncertainty. You are walking with certainty. I want to speak plainly here because clarity matters at this level. God is not clearing you to receive more so you can accumulate without purpose. He is clearing you to receive more because your life is meant to be a channel, not a container. Containers fill and stop. Channels flow and remain open. You have been transformed from someone who held on tightly to someone who allows movement. That shift alone changes everything. There was a season where you guarded everything, your time, your energy, your money, your heart, because loss felt personal and frequent. Guarding kept you safe then, but now guarding has evolved into stewardship. Stewardship does not hoard, it manages. It does not fear depletion. It trusts replenishment. And trust in replenishment is one of the clearest signs that heaven has restored your internal economy. Chosen. One, abundance is not about how much enters your life. It is about how cleanly it moves through you. Clean flow does not create anxiety. It creates clarity. It does not inflate ego. It expands impact. That is why God waited. That is why the clearance came when it did, not when you were desperate, but when you were ready to remain yourself, even as things increase. You may still be tempted at times to measure progress externally, to look for proof, to check results. That impulse is human, but notice how quickly your spirit returns to center now. Notice how fear no longer camps in your thoughts. It visits briefly, then leaves. That tells me your foundation is solid. Fear cannot root where trust has taken residence. Anointed One, you are also stepping into a rhythm where obedience feels natural instead of forced. You no longer wrestle with every instruction. You listen, discern, and move. That fluidity is the result of intimacy, not effort. When you know God's voice, obedience becomes agreement, not sacrifice. And agreement accelerates manifestation. Let me ground this one last time in lived reality. There were moments in my own journey when I thought the blessing would arrive with fireworks, sudden, loud, overwhelming. But what actually arrived was peace, then clarity, then alignment. And only after that did the external shift follow. The blessing did not interrupt my life, it integrated with it. That is how you know it is from God. Anything that requires you to abandon your peace to access it is not worth receiving. Chosen one, your life is becoming integrated now. Faith and function are aligning. Prayer and planning are no longer in conflict. Spirituality and responsibility are no longer competing. This integration is rare, and it is what allows you to carry more without fragmenting. Fragmented people burn out quickly. Integrated people endure. There is also a subtle invitation here to release urgency around outcomes. Urgency belongs to scarcity. Patience belongs to abundance. When you know supply is steady, you do not rush the harvest. You tend the soil. You water consistently. You trust the process. That trust is not passive. It is active faith. And active faith always produces fruit. Anointed one, the season ahead will require discernment more than striving. There will be opportunities that look good but are not yours. There will be invitations that flatter but distract. Remember this, not every open door is permission. Some doors open to test focus. You are allowed to decline without explanation. Alignment is not rude. It is responsible. You are also allowed to enjoy what God gives you. Enjoyment is not unspiritual. It is gratitude expressed through rest. God delights in seeing his children at peace, not anxious, not exhausted, at peace. That peace is your testimony. It tells the world that God is faithful without you needing to explain it. Chosen one, as you move forward, keep your heart soft and your boundaries clear. Soft hearts receive, clear boundaries protect. You do not need to harden yourself to be strong. You have learned how to be gentle and firm at the same time. That balance will serve you well as influence grows. I want you to hold this truth close. Heaven does not tease. When God clears someone to receive more, he follows through. The timing may unfold in layers, but the decision has already been made. And God does not reverse decisions rooted in obedience and humility. What he has authorized, no resistance can cancel. So walk forward without bracing for disappointment. Build without expecting collapse. Receive without apology. Give without fear. Rest without guilt. You are not stepping into a season of unpredictability. You are stepping into a season of provision with order. Chosen one, let this word seal you. Not emotionally, but spiritually. You are not waiting to be approved. You have been cleared. And the life that unfolds from this clearance will not demand you become someone else to sustain it. It will allow you to finally be yourself, rooted, aligned, and supported by heaven. Stay faithful, stay present, stay open. What you are carrying now is not fragile. It is established, and heaven is faithful to complete what it has begun in you. Chosen one, as this word comes to rest, receive this moment with reverence. What heaven has spoken over you is sealed not by emotion, but by alignment. You are not standing on the edge of possibility, you are standing in fulfillment. This is your kairos moment, your divinely appointed time, where what was prepared in secret now begins to manifest in the open. Anointed one, the clearance has already been issued. The resistance has been lifted. The flow has been authorized. A supernatural transfer is already in motion, moving toward you with precision, peace, and divine order. What is coming will not overwhelm you. It will fit you. It will support you. It will confirm what God has been forming within you all along. Remain faithful. Stay aligned. Guard your peace and honor the stillness that follows this word, because stillness is where heaven moves most clearly. Walk forward with gratitude, not urgency, expectation, not fear. Trust that what unfolds next will arrive in the right way, at the right pace, and with unmistakable confirmation. If this word resonated with your spirit, let it anchor you. Stay connected to this flow, And if you feel led, quietly subscribe so you don't miss what heaven releases next. You may also write your city in the comments as a simple declaration that you are present, aligned, and ready. Go in peace, chosen one. Heaven is faithful, and what has begun will be completed.